All right, well, let's do this.
Cool. Let's do this. We're doing it.
Happy. Whoop, I was about to.
It's okay. That's fine. Just roll with it.
All right. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to Cranked and Wanked.
Jesus Christ, man. Oh.
That was not even on purpose. That's what a way to start the year.
Damn.
Welcome to welcome to Cranked and Ranked 2023. And I know why that happened, because I knew I was going to say 2023 and there's all these W's in there, and so the W just went to Cranked and Wanked 2023. You thought you knew us, and now you're going to know a whole lot more about us, including our penis size.
Mine's a good 7.
Oh, 7. Well, good for you. I haven't measured mine in a long time, but I mean, but how do you measure it? Is it from the base, or is it, and you do it when it's erect? When you do it, like, how do you? This is a really good conversation to have. First off, welcome everybody. That's why I've always been very confused.
I just took one of my 45s and I just like stuck it against my crotch.
Oh, that's a good. Okay, all right. So there you go. That's, if anyone wants to know a good way to measure your junk, because I think 7 inches is a good length to shoot for. And so just grab it. Just grab it. Just grab a 7-inch and hold it next to it, and just see how you measure up. Hi. Hello, everyone. So the very first episode of 2023 for Cranked and Ranked. And we're here. And obviously it's been, we took a couple of weeks off, and my brain also took a couple of weeks off, apparently. But it was the holidays. Everything gets real loose. And now we're coming back together for you. And as usual, hello, I'm Old Head. With me as always, Mr. Eddie Sparxx.
That is me. We're in 2023. Back to you.
And so we thought we would start off the new year. This is another genius idea from the brain of Edward Sparxx. He said, we've been doing this for a couple years now, and there's a few bands that we've done that have since released new albums. And so maybe we should just, instead of going back and updating our ranking, we'll just rank all those together. So it's all these different artists combating against each other with their new shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's an interesting thing to do. And it's a nice way to ease our way into 2023. And also we get to talk about some newer stuff. So I was like, yeah, hell yeah. So we ended up figuring out that out of all of the artists that we've done over the couple years we've been doing this, 6 of them have new albums. 1 of them has 2 new albums. And so we are going to rank those 7 releases. And I feel like I came at this a lot more from a personal viewpoint. And because I really wasn't thinking too much about their other material when I was ranking these. I was actually thinking about the other albums on this episode and not
the same.
Their catalog. Yeah. So this is interesting. And only one of these ended up in my top 10 of 2021. And the other one, I included it in my best of 2022. Rest of them didn't even have a fucking chance. But
damn,
we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah. Anyway, I really do feel like I don't know how to start this, and because we're not doing an artist, and so we're not talking about where they came into our lives, because it's not just one artist, it's six, and we've
Yeah.
already talked about them. But also I've noticed like your beard's getting a little bit fuller there. Are you keeping that going, or is this, just a Christmas time beard?
No, I wanted to see what I could do. I've toyed around with some different styles during this decade so far, and we did the full handlebar. We did the
Mm-hmm.
handlebar with a soul patch. I've had
Yeah.
a goatee at various stages. I thought, you know what? Let's try just growing it and seeing what happens.
What?
So,
Yeah. Whatever
yeah.
you do, don't ever do just the soul patch, like where you get
Oh,
rid of
nah,
everything. Like
nah.
I've never seen anybody that didn't look like a douchebag that had just that. Like
I
that
feel
is
like
unfortunate looking.
I feel like that and the pencil thin chin strap. That's a
Yeah.
that's a very much of its time,
I
and
feel like
even
I
for its time, it was kind of a
why
red flag.
yeah, but why does that beard style immediately make me think of the oldest guy in NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys? It's
Yeah.
one of them always seemed to have a pencil thin kind of beard, whatever the goatee to the Van Dyke kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not neither one of those artists are in this list, because we have yet to rank Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. But you know what? I would not put it past us to eventually getting to one of those.
Hell yeah.
I'd like to do Backstreet Boys, honestly. I actually
That
really like them.
that'd be
Anyway,
cool.
so 7 releases from 6 different bands, and we're ranking them in the order from what we think is the least good to the most good, competing with each other. So it's a competition of many different styles. Eddie pointed this out before we started, that like it seems like we're covering all these different styles that except for hip hop, we've got all these different styles that we've talked about over the years.
Yeah.
I can't believe I can say the phrase "over the years" when we talk about our podcast.
It's wild, isn't it? Like it's really cool that we've just kept this going.
This
You
is
know,
this is the fourth. What? Wait, it's
this
the
will be the
fourth year.
year. Yeah.
2020, 21, 22, and 23. Holy shit, we are entering the 4th calendar year anyway,
Yeah.
of
Season
us doing
4.
this. See, I guess technically season 4. Okay. So without further ado, see, I had to get that out. Let's rank these, and let's not even talk about what they are. Let's just, they will unfold as the listeners and viewers are enjoying this episode. So as usual, I'm going to hand it over to Eddie Sparxx to tell me what his number 7 pick of these 7 albums is.
Okay. So my number 7 is one of 2 by the same band, and that is Unlimited Love by the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
So far, we have matched up. My number 7 is also Unlimited Love by Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Cool. So I'm just going to jump straight into the track by track.
Do it.
Because we
Oh
got
my
a
God,
lot
it's going to take forever.
yeah, I was going to say, what is it? There's 17 songs on both albums. And they both came out this year. This is
And and they were both recorded at the same time. Same session.
It's like a staggered fucking it sits somewhere between Use Your Illusion and Load and Reload in terms of, frequency of release.
Yeah.
But same basic concept. Two albums, one session. So Black Summer, great opener. What can I say? It's still standard Chili Peppers affair, but it's a good song. Here Ever After. Now already I somehow feel like I know what I'm getting. Not only for 1 but 2 albums here, and goddamn, dude,
it's because you've been getting the same thing from them for 20 years now.
Yeah, and it was such a. I was of the mindset that okay, it's typical that Black Summer, a very standard Chili Peppers sounding thing, would kick off the album, but I was holding out for this to be more eclectic, and it does have its moments.
Yeah.
it has like, I mean, for a 17 track album to have 4 or 5 songs I'm interested in, that's not a great ratio.
No.
Like, maybe if it was a 10 track album, perhaps you could say, well, it's got a few songs on it, but the ratio here is like just way out.
Yeah.
Um, Aquatic Mouth Dance. You know how you mentioned riff blur?
Yes.
We're getting title blur at this point because you've got American Ghost Dance, Aquatic Mouth Dance. You know, I'm starting to, I'm starting to think they have a formula.
Little bit.
You're going to notice as well. I have one thing I fall back on when I have nothing else to say about a Red Hot Chili Peppers song. Wow, great bass. Uh, so
Yeah.
here's the thing. I'm gonna say that a lot for the next 2 albums.
Yeah.
Not the one. I actually really like this song's vibe. Very nice. It's different. It's not. It's. I think it's quite telling that my favorite modern Red Hot Chili Peppers songs are songs that don't sound like modern Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Poster Child, wow, great bass. The Great Apes. Great Apes has a cool guitar solo.
Wow, Great Apes.
Yeah. It's oh man. I will say it's got a cool guitar solo with great bass behind it.
Yeah.
It's only natural. It was at this point in the album, as of writing this, I sometimes feel a bit crazy when I look at rankings of Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm not gonna lie. As much as I love their first 5 or 6 albums,
Yeah.
I feel like there's something I'm missing when it comes to their output after 1999.
Yeah.
Which brings me to She's a Lover, which is just more clean guitar funk rock. And this is one of those things that makes me feel like there's something wrong with me. Because the thing I loved about Red Hot Chili Peppers through the 80s and 90s was like the feeling of unpredictability. And yet everybody raves about their output 99 and onward, if you exclude Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic.
Yeah.
As someone who got into Red Hot Chili Peppers well into their career and was excited by their stuff all the way from the mid 80s up to Californication, I genuinely don't know how someone can find something like By the Way more interesting than Mother's Milk or even Uplift Mofo Party Plan.
I feel like a lot of them don't, but I do think that there's a difference because coming at it from an older person, I'm not a normal older person. And I feel like most older people really appreciated the unpredictable nature and fun nature of early Chili Peppers, even through the 90s. But I feel like when they made that turn to making this more sort of middle of the road kind of mellow Chili Peppers style, I think most of their audience also became middle of the road and mellow. And so, but that's not me. And so I think that's the problem, is that I didn't become that, because so many people you run into that are my age now, they don't really even talk about music anymore. They talk about sports or the news or their job, sometimes movies or TV, but music is usually way down the list for older people. And so, I feel like the problem is that, first of all, they weren't one of my favorite bands of all time, so I didn't just take the ride with them. But along with that, I still have the same desires and expectations that I had when I was young, where I want music to wow me and I want a band to put out something that surprises me in some way. But I think a lot of people, especially older people, don't want that. So yeah.
It's kind of upsetting to me personally to I don't know. It's like even I've spoken to people of my generation about Chili Peppers, and they love the modern mellow Chili Peppers, and they haven't even heard anything off Mother's Milk. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's just one of those things where I'm like, I'm sorry, but how is this more appealing than this wacky crazy
I,
shit? You know, I just it's
it's just a preference. I have a feeling that people that really prefer more recent Chili Peppers, they're also the kind of people that last Sublime album is one of their favorite albums. They
mm,
just they just want to have that sort of I'm high hanging on the beach music all the time.
yeah,
And that's what the Chili Peppers essentially make now. It's like
yeah,
they're not surfing or doing any sort of hard drugs or doing anything interesting. They're literally just sunbathing and smoking a joint, and that's what the
yeah.
music is for. And that's it.
It's it really has been 20 years of the same thing, and
I mean, I'm going to go on a limb and say it's been at this point 24 years of the same thing. I think Californication is the turning point where
yes,
it the them being unpredictable and putting out albums that were challenging in some way or at least a little different in some way that ended with
yeah,
Californication.
yeah. That was the the moment blonde Kiedis showed up. It was
Short-haired
over.
Kiedis.
Yeah, yeah.
Although, did he have short hair on One Hot Minute? Because I fucking love that one. But
Nah, he still had the mane in the
it's
airplane video.
you see what I'm saying? It's just like Soundgarden. You can hear that he cut his hair short.
Yeah, I know. It sounds shallow, but it's like that. What's it called? Like Samson or something. Like he had his
Yeah,
legs cut off. Yeah.
yeah, his power. Although I don't think Chris Cornell really lost any power, but
Nah.
Kiedis quit taking the drugs and cut his hair. That was like a double whammy. So
Yeah.
not since we're tearing this apart here, I do want to go out. I know I think I said this on the Red Hot Chili Peppers episodes too. Did we do 2 episodes of Chili Peppers? I don't even remember. I think we
We
did.
did. Yeah.
But my problem with them is that they are one of the bands. They're high up on the list of bands that I want to like what they do so badly
Yeah.
because I genuinely like them. Like I like them as a band. They're very talented dudes. Whenever I see interviews with any of them, I go, those guys fucking rule. And so it really hurts me that every single time I go, okay, I love you guys, but
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just always frustrating for me because I really want to be into the Chili Peppers.
That's the thing. And like on the song, these are the ways I've got like, okay, this is a bit more exciting. Because for a moment they remember they're a rock band. You know, this song is really good. If only this happened more often in post 99 Chili Peppers, you know?
Yeah.
Um, what you thinking? I mean, there's some cool guitar work from Frusciante, but honestly, again, this falls into the same thing I've expected for over 20 years at this point zone.
Yeah.
Um, Bastards of Light, cool song with cool changes in it. Uh, White Braids and Pillow Chair. Um, it's, I mean, the tempo shift at the end is cool. Weird fucking title.
Yeah.
One Way Traffic, cool guitar work. Veronica has a nice tremolo effect on it. Let Him Cry. Wow, great bass. The Heavy Wing, Fleas on vocals, which is cool.
Yeah.
And Tangelo's a nice closer. But here is my scathing 2 sentence overall review of this album.
Mhm.
This album did not need to be nearly 20 songs long.
No.
This album barely needed to be 10 songs long.
Yeah.
It,
I would say both albums together barely needed to be 10 songs long.
Yeah, I think you take the most interesting songs from either album, slap them together, they get a side each. You get 40 minutes of the most interesting Chili Peppers has sounded for a
Yeah.
while. That's solely based on sheer quantity of output, though, because like, what is it? It's like 34 songs.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna get some cool off the wall shit in there, but I
Not no,
think
not really.
yeah. But like, yeah. That being
I
said, I feel like the follow up improved a little bit.
I agree, but another thing that's really disappointing about this album is that they're fucking produced by Rick Rubin, and so I just assumed that there's going to be a great energy to this stuff because he seems like a guy that he's really good at getting bands to like, look, quit fucking around and like put your heart into it. But
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have known that Rick Rubin had anything to do with this, but and it's supposed to be like the return of John Frusciante. But I realized that the John Frusciante album that I feel like he from the past that he probably likes the most is Blood Sugar Sex Magic, which is my least favorite of all the ones because like I think One Hot Minute is better than Blood Sugar Sex Magic, and Mother's Milk is better than Blood Sugar Sex Magic. And those are both albums. One is not John Frusciante. The other one is him being told he needs to use more distortion and play heavier shit in the studio. So it's going completely against who John Frusciante is, which leads me to believe that I'm not really a fan of John Frusciante. How many times can I say John Frusciante? Woo! Anyway, so
drink
like I think
drink every time he flubs that word.
Oh shit! I don't think I've ever said his name right once in my life. But he's a very talented. He's a very talented guy, and even when like there were the build up to these albums, I don't remember what band they were talking about, but they were saying like John Frusciante's been like hanging with metal bands and stuff. I was like, oh, he has? Well, maybe this will be interesting. No, it's still like it's just the same fucking shit. Now, and I'm not saying that shit. Yeah, and I'm not saying that shit's easy to play because it's like I wouldn't be able to play a lot of the stuff that he plays. He's very talented, but
there's 100 songs that already sound like it. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I've come to terms with the fact that I actually, if it comes down to it, I'm actually a bigger fan of Red Hot Chili Peppers with Hillel or some other guitar player. I don't want John Frusciante. Anyway, so I have a few points and then we can move on. I feel like just like with all of their stuff that they've been doing over the past several years, you hear little hints of the Chili's that you love, but not enough. And nothing really grabs me, especially on this album. I started to really feel like this album, especially a lot of the stuff that they're doing, it sounds like adult contemporary Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Like if they took Red Hot Chili Peppers and they said, oh, we want you to be able to be played on the adult contemporary channel for the old people in the dentist office. And they're like, oh, we got that. And they just did an entire album of dentist office, Red Hot Chili Peppers. But yeah, they're still a great band, killer band, but the songs, unfortunately, are not good enough to make up for the mellower approach. I think that's the big problem, too. It's not just that they've mellowed out in what they're doing. It's just that the songs, for the most part, are not memorable or interesting enough to actually carry all of that. Yeah. And so it's not awful. It's just not exciting and definitely not something that I'm going to go revisit probably ever. It just, I wrote down here, by the time I felt like I was done with this album, it wasn't even halfway over.
Ooh.
And then at that point, it just faded into the background. So
that's how I would describe it too. It feels like background music.
Yeah. So overall, if somebody said, do you think that they're a bad band or this is a bad album? I'd be like, no, but it is definitely not for me. And so it ends up at my number 7, our number 7. So we can quickly move on. Right here, we're going to diverge, I'm pretty sure. But okay. What is your number 6 of these albums we're discussing today? I love that I'm trying to be secret about it. It's fun.
Well, my number 6 is the direct follow-up to Unlimited Love, which is Return of the Dream Canteen. How
does a canteen return? Isn't a canteen like a place that you go to? You return to the Dream Canteen.
I thought as well, like isn't it like a bottle you can carry with you as well?
Oh, maybe it is. I thought a canteen was like a bar or a.
It's double meaning.
Okay.
It's kind of like how minute and minute are spelt exactly the same.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's always kind of fucked with me.
The English language is fucking stupid.
Yeah, we really shit the bed on that one.
It's your country's fault. We've made things more interesting over here with our slang terms.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
I gotta be honest, man. Sidewalk, you're not wrong. It's on the side and you walk on it. Yeah. Pavement.
That was a short meeting to come up with that name. That's like that Mitch Hedberg joke I really like, where he talks about, refrigerator, toaster. All you do is say what it does, and you put after it.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to be able to do that. It's like, hey, this thing makes stuff fresh. What do you call it? Well, that's a fresher. I'm going on break.
That's a good job, man. Jeez.
Anyway, all right. What are we at? Oh, Dream Canteen. Return of the Dream Canteen. Not my number 6. Interestingly enough.
Do you drink from it? Do you drink in it? Who knows? But
either way, it's not going to taste very good.
Damn, dude, that's brutal. I will say, right, tip of my tongue, gotta confess, I like the hooks in this one. It's delivered with conviction. Much stronger opener than Black Summer. It has, if all Red Hot Chili Peppers post 99 was this good, funky, and interesting, I mean, it's all funky, but this one has a certain oomph behind it and an energy to it that's like, see, this feels right. Like, but, it's like you say, there needs to be a song there to back it up. And this time, it's there.
Yeah.
And then we have the follow-up, Peace and Love. Wow, great bass. Reach Out. I like the explosive chorus on Reach Out. Now, I will say, well, that's obvious, Will. You like hard rock and heavy metal. And Red Hot Chili Peppers are not strictly a hard rock and heavy metal band. No, but when they have their guitars on the clean setting for 90% of their output, it's nice to hear something heavy once in a while, which shakes it up a little bit,
Yeah.
It's almost like they took the quiet, loud, quiet template of the 90s rock thing and just removed the payoff. And so it's just quiet, quiet, quiet.
Yeah.
That's what sometimes pisses me off. This time, that doesn't happen. And I will say, Eddie, that's me, but it's also a song, has an awesome guitar solo in it.
But did it like that when that song first came out? They were all like, "Eddie, this song is supposed to be about Eddie Van Halen." I was like, "Oh, it must be really rocking," and it's like, doom, 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 doom. It's just the same shit.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my fucking god! Did you actually ever listen to Van Halen? It's like, oh, Eddie Van Halen. What's this song going to be? Boom, doom, doom. Okay. Oh,
wait, you're telling me that song's not about me? Oh,
don't you think it would be better if it was about Eddie Sparxx? Man, it would be like a grindcore song.
He's cool.
Little dude.
Fake as fuck. Wow, great bass. Bella. Wow, great bass. Roulette. Wow, great bass. My Cigarette. Okay, here's something, right? And I know, again, this is one of those things where I'm going to say, okay, cool, 80s drum machine. Someone is going to say, well, you just like the 80s. That's why you like that sound. That's why you like that more than the rest. And I think No, it's
I love this character. I love this character. He's my favorite.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot more. I'm gonna have a lot more personalities this year. I feel like my mental health has descended to the point where I have multiple personalities. So we can just dive straight into that. But yeah,
you should come up with like the actual character, and maybe like put on a hat whenever that character is talking, and then take it off when it's, I don't know, just for the added visual effect for the people at home. Just there you go.
Eddie, yes, you like 80s drums. Of course you do.
And then you tie up the corners and you go, hello. You know? From what was it? The Gumbies from Monty Python. They had the handkerchiefs on their heads. My brain hurts.
Oh, mine certainly did doing this list. But yeah, so 80s drum machine, you know, it's not because it has a synthwave inspired soundscape. It's because it sounds different on the tail of 3 fucking very standard Red Hot Chili Peppers sounding songs.
Yeah.
And it's like every time they do something different, I'm like, do this more, you know?
I mean, if we roll it back to Blood Sugar Sex Magic, that album is not as heavy as the one they did before it. But the thing and that's a pretty long album, but there's like a nice variety of songs, and the ones that are more mellow have like insanely good hooks and other stuff in them. So it really keeps the momentum of that album going, and a lot of that is just missing from this stuff.
Yeah, it's like little parts from like their stuff back in the day. When you think about, what is it, that like riff in the middle of Righteous and Wicked, most of that song is just down dirty, nasty, funky.
Yeah.
But there's that one part where there's this like really Sabbathy, and
there's a lot of that
like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what you're saying. So you made a good point, because you were talking about like that sort of funky groove kind of thing. There's even a lack of funky grooves, like those grooves where you go, fuck yeah. There's so now, like, it's almost like old Chili Peppers. You would dance like this.
Yeah.
And now you do this.
Yeah.
There's literally not I mean, because that's the thing, is that I'm not expecting the Chili Peppers to be heavy. I realize that Mother's Milk is kind of an anomaly in there, because like one of my favorites is Freaky Styley. There's not really anything heavy on that. It's pretty mellow, but there's a fucking insanely good groove and vibe to it that just is so enjoyable. And it's, you know, once again, I'm comparing stuff made by dudes that are approaching 60 to dudes who were in their early 20s or whatever. And so I understand the difference, but
yeah,
I'm also older and I did not become lame yet. So there you
go. Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
I really like that song, actually.
I live in Britain. I never need to hear it again.
You know, the one that I don't like, now onto Oasis, I don't like Don't Look Back in Anger. I don't like that song at all, because that's
so they can wait.
Yeah,
we've just got copyright claim, by the way.
Just because, like, first off, I don't like, is that Noel that sings that one? Yeah, I don't like Noel's voice as much as Liam's voice. But also that song, the people would always say, oh, Oasis, they're very Beatlesque. But that song literally sounds like they just ripped off a Beatles song and then wrote new notes and words over it. And so I'm just like,
yeah,
that song's kind of lame. Whereas Wonderwall is just an insanely well-written song. Beautiful song. I love it. I never get tired of it.
You ever seen that video? What's it called? It recently got put back up because there was like a copyright claim against it or something, but it finally got put back up. It's called Wonderwall, but it's a complete shit show.
Oh,
and it's so funny.
Yeah,
maybe.
There's one of the Backstreet Boys doing "I Want It That Way," where they just sound completely fucked up the whole time, and those are a lot of fun.
One of my favorites is Africa by Toto, but the vocals are one beat out of step
Oh
and
God.
one note out of key, and it's so funny. Everything else in the song is normal. It's like, I hear the drums echoing tonight. It's just so, it's a fucking hellscape, but I love it. Oh, and one more. Sorry, one more while it's on my mind. Have you ever heard "Never Gonna Hit Those Notes"?
No. Is that
Oh,
Rick Astley?
yeah, it's incredible. Someone's got a pitch shifter and they've just gone, just like woo, all over the place. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. It's so funny.
I'm one of those weird people that, like, years ago when the Rick rolling thing first started, I apparently didn't quite understand it, because I thought it was like you were giving somebody a present, because it's like, oh, you were expecting this one thing and then you get Never Gonna Give You Up, which to me is a fabulous song and I love it. So I was all like, oh yeah, Rick Astley again. But apparently it was supposed to be like a bad thing that you were getting Rick rolled. And I'm like, no, you were being given a gift of Rick Astley. So there you go.
That was a simpler time in YouTube. You'd have something like man's arm torn off in an industrial press, and you'd be like, well, I can't not click on that, and then you'd click on it. But yeah.
Oh man, that's just your little version of that intro beat. I'm just like, I'm so ready for that song now. I love that song.
Tell you another one that's great. Together forever.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's very stylistically similar, but
I know, but that guy, but you have to remember, I'm pretty sure that when he put that album out, I think those are both on the same album, and I think he was like 19 years old or some shit. And like,
wow, really? I didn't realize he's that young.
Yeah. Because I mean, plus, like, he's one of those dudes that he is aged incredibly well. Like, you see him, and I'm just like, holy crap! I mean, I guess, you know, I look younger than my age, but he like looks like this mature, very well put together, chiseled, handsome man. And it's like, he's like 60 years old or something. I mean, he's probably 50 something, but still, you know, I mean, I envy the guy, and his voice is fucking great. So yeah,
great singer, man.
Anyway, I love how these tangents. Chinch. All right, cranked and wanked. All right.
Another cranked and wanked tangent.
From John Fushanchish.
Jesus. But yeah,
are we even halfway through this yet?
No. Okay, so Afterlife. Wow, great bass. Shoot Me a Smile. Now I have.
Let's just shorten that title to just Shoot Me.
Which is funny because I have this like. I have this definition in my head. I've heard other people call it that as well, but you ever get the vibe that, like, when a song starts going, you're about to hear, "You need a car that can keep your family safe." They all knew my Batu monstrosity, you know? It's something like that. Yeah. I get that from a lot of middle of the road Chili Peppers. I'm just kind of like, I'm waiting for someone in a Nissan Qashqai to drive past a beach in a sunset. And it's like, ugh. But yeah. Handful. Chorus effect. I'm listening. Now I will say, here we go. The highlight of the album for me, the drummer. Sounds like something I'd write through the lens of Red Hot Chili Peppers. I fucking love this song. I'm not gonna lie. Those keyboard chords are awesome. Though, like, it has an almost, you know, AOR feel to it. You know, like it could be a secret Boston B-side that they chili pepperized. But I mean, I really love this song. Bag of Grins is heavy, you know, it gives me the grunge vibes. I like this one a lot too. It's just a shame that it's outweighed by a bunch of other junk. La 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 la. Lighters in the Air, it's ballad time. Copperbelly, wow, great bass. Carry Me Home, wow, great bass. In the Snow, wow, great bass. This album, while twice the length it should be, had weirder and more interesting songs. Actually, I really liked In the Snow. I forgot to do a note for that. I thought that was a nice closer. That being said,
it also had great bass, though. They all
it did have. Yes. Yeah. That is like the one thing they have done consistently right throughout, and that is Flea. But yeah.
Really, Flea could just sit on a stool and play bass with no other music around him, and I would really enjoy it. So.
Yeah. Again, much like its predecessor, this album did not need to be nearly 20 songs long. This album barely needed to be 10.
Yeah.
I think you have a double album's worth times 2 with 2 good EPs in there.
Yeah.
Which is, oh God, let's say divided. There's like 7 EPs worth in this selection. So that being said, I'm sorry, but they both had to inhabit the bottom slot because both outstay their welcome, and far too much of it is the same thing we've had for the last 24 years.
Yeah. I agree, but I didn't put that next in my list because I did enjoy a few things on it, and number 6 had to be reserved for my biggest disappointment of 2022. And my number 6 is Rad Wings of Destiny by Ugly Kid Joe.
Look how he massacred my boy.
Yeah. So I am a really big Ugly Kid Joe fan, as is Eddie. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to one of our early episodes, we ranked Ugly Kid Joe, and I talked a lot about how important that band is to me and was to me in high school, and and even the stuff up until this album that they had put out that had things about it that I really enjoyed, and so I was a really big fan of theirs. I still am. So they announced this album, and the album is called Rad Wings of Destiny, which is a funny title, and the album cover is just a really cool sort of Ugly Kid Joe looking painting with the dude and other shit going on. It looks like an absolute blast, which is the complete opposite of what the album is. So the first song that came out, I don't remember the name of it, but it just sounds like an AC/DC song, literally just ripped off from AC/DC, where Whitfield even sings and does vocal things just like Bon Scott would have done. Like, it's literally just copycatting AC/DC. But I didn't let that bother me because I'm all like, well, they toy around with different styles and they pay homage to stuff that influenced them. So, on its own, it's a fun track. So I was like, let me hear the rest of the album. And the whole album is one of two things: either stale versions of stuff that sound like other bands, or songs that are completely void of energy and fun. Those are the only two things on this Ugly Kid Joe album. And like to give you an example, the second song on the album is called Not Like the Other, which sounds like they're trying to do like a 70s glam, style song. But the song begins with like, and then you hear these voices go, hey, and the heys are so unexcited. It sounds like they're all laying in reclining chairs recording it. Guys, we got to record the heys for this song. All right, play it. Dun, dun, dun. Hey. And that's literally what it sounds like. For people in the podcast world, I was leaning back in my chair looking really bored. But even that song that could have used a bit of energy is presented in a way that's just so like, here's a song. And just like I said with Red Hot Chili Peppers, like, I understand everybody gets older, and Ugly Kid Joe are older, but I'm older too. They're a little bit older than me, but there's something about this album. I wrote down, this album is just a plodding chore to get through. Like it really, I kept waiting for something fun. And when I mean fun, I don't mean silly or jokey. They didn't have to do that, but just something that came close to what they had done before when it comes to what you go to Ugly Kid Joe for, which is like what the album cover and album title are. I would have to say that I think that it is the most bait and switch album cover and album title in the history of music, because you look at it and you're like, this is going to be a good time. And the music is just like, all right, here's some songs. We're Ugly Kid Joe. Listen to them, I guess, if you want. Good night. And that is the album in a nutshell. And so it's very aggravating, because this is a band that I love and a band that's very important to me. And it's just bummer after bummer on this album. And I
was just going to say there, did the producer that did America's Least Wanted return for this one?
Mark Dodson?
I heard someone say something like
Mark Dodson's a great producer, but he can't help out, uninspired songs. He's not going to help with that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where I heard that, but yeah.
But anyway, that's really all I have to say about it. But it went way down here because my disappointment over this album made it even worse than one of the Red Hot Chili Peppers albums for me, because I went back to listen to it so many times because I just wanted to like it. I just wanted to like it because I'm just like, it's Ugly Kid Joe. I want to like it and I want to have a good time. But every time I listened to it in different settings, in different moods, and every time I just went, God damn it, it's literally just it sounds like the most phoned in when it comes to songwriting and performances. Like Whitfield Crane's still a great singer, but even he seems like he's just kind of going through the motions on this, and it's fine. Like I'm okay with a band doing something different, but this isn't different. This almost just feels like very watered down, and then watered down again after it was watered down. And so it's just a real bummer to me. And so that's why it's number 6 for me. Rad Wings of Destiny. A cool side note. I don't know if you've been paying attention to me on social media and other things, but there's a connection here. Rad Wings of Destiny, Sad Wings of Destiny. I would go on record now as to say that I am a Judas Priest fan now.
So it's clicked.
It's clicked. Like it clicked with me with the 80s stuff, but I've been very slowly moving backwards. And now that I'm doing that, I'm listening to it, I'm going, you know what? If I take a step away from this music and disassociate it from metal, because it's mostly not metal. And so if I do that and I come at it from like a hard rock standpoint and just having a good time, I'm like, yeah, these are great songs. They're a great band. So I'm fully in there now, where now post Painkiller, I can't really be bothered at this point, but they have a new album coming out this year. And so I'm going to be able to approach it from a different viewpoint now, because now I actually enjoy a lot of their stuff. So cool. That'll be interesting. Anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of bands that actually do evolve and take creative risks, pretty much largely throughout, that was Judas Priest.
Yeah.
Doing their thing. Just, jumping off of Red Hot Chili Peppers' last 25 years of doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. Even going forward, thinking about our ranking of Judas Priest, even when you get to like Nostradamus, which I didn't like, it's still them putting forth an effort to do something different. So so there you go.
Cool. I like Rad Wings of Destiny a little more, but I've come at it from a different angle. That being said, my number 5. So I've done my notes kind of weird this time. Let me find it. Okay. My number 5 is Def Leppard with Diamond Star Halos.
All right.
Okay. So we have now entered, for me, the zone where there are songs on this release I can see myself going back to.
Okay.
Potentially, maybe cutting out some of the filler and having kind of my own version of the album,
It's
which,
also a very long album too.
yeah, that's something a lot of these fucking bands need to get in their head, is that just because you've been gone for 7 years, not in the studio, does not mean you need 5 extra songs on top of a 10-song track list. Anywhere between 8 and 12 songs is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
13 or 14 if the album is fucking flawless. Anything beyond that, you are really risking outstaying your welcome.
Yeah.
That being said, take what you want. Great opener, great energy, blows the bloody doors off.
Yeah.
Kick, quite clearly designed for a live setting. Sing-along vibes, the big single from this album. Fire It Up. Same could be said here, except it's not as big a, single. You could argue that for most of Def Leppard's career, really. They are the, I mean, hell, you could say they were the last hurrah of the hair metal era with Adrenalize. Like, that was really the last big album of that era. This guitar featuring Alison Krauss. This duet is the track 4 ballad of the album, and judging by the wince on your face when I said that is it does have a country edge to it.
You said
something I know is a boner killer for you.
And Alison Krauss is considered folk or Americana. I don't think she's like actual country music, but still, it's just one of those. It's one of those combos where I just go, "You guys are one of the most famous bands in the world. Can't you get somebody more interesting to be on your fucking songs? Not let alone 2 of them. I think she's on 2 of them.
She's on 2. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Joe Elliott, come on, man.
SOS Emergency brings the energy back up. Liquid Dust, great hooky rock song. You, as in the letter U, rock, spelt ROK, and me, spelt MI. Silly, but
I wish the people in the podcast world could see that face I was making.
yeah, it's kind of cringe. It's got a psychedelic edge to it at points. It's cool. It has a most triumphant solo. Goodbye for good this time. Don't say that, I'll tear up. All we need, I definitely think this album needed more air in its mix. It does feel a little. While I was listening to it, it feels like they've attempted to simulate the feeling of being in a stadium rather than just embracing the stadium rock sound. It doesn't sound like what they used to do. I mean, you could say Hysteria sounds very robotic or cleanly produced. Yeah, but it does a much more effective job at putting me in a space with the guys rather than, I want music to take me places. I'm very aware I am listening to a song right now on a pair of headphones, because it's like everybody's way up, and I feel like music needs to get some air back in it. Who's in control of the volume knob? I am. I'll decide when it's too much, rather than being told this is what you get. Fuck you, I guess. But, Open Your Eyes. It has a Muse-esque bass tone at the start. They're clearly still, adapting and doing new sonic things. Give Me a Kiss. I'm of the mindset that this album would have been far more effective if they capped it at roughly 10 tracks. Coming up soon. Angels. Oh, we have our first bracket song of 2023. Angels. Can't Help You Now. This is the stage in the album where fatigue begins to set in for me, unfortunately. These aren't bad songs, but at this stage, they're not bringing anything new to the table that I haven't already had on this release. Which quite literally it transitions beautifully into Lifeless, which is another duet with Allison.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all right. Unbreakable is modern Def Lep doing modern Def Lep. From Here to Eternity. Now, damn, dude, what a closer. Somehow harkens back to classic rock songs like I Want You, She's So Heavy. Oh, sorry. I Want You, She's So Heavy. And Dazed and Confused, while also conjuring their 80s era. If the last 5 songs hadn't happened and they closed it with this at number 10, this album would probably be higher on this list. Overall, fun energy on a lot of the music, but could have benefited from being capped at 10 songs as opposed to 15.
Yeah.
I get that it's been 7 years, but sheesh, keep it a fun 40 minutes rather than bloating it. You guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
honestly, I think that I'm sure they all have their reasoning for doing these things, but I feel like if you go into a recording session and you come out with 14 songs and you feel like they're all strong enough to be released, release a 10-song album. And if everybody fucking loves that, next year, release a 4-song EP. And guess what? All those same people are going to buy that shit.
Exactly.
It's like, and I think it makes the extra songs more digestible because you're now separating it from what are the 10 strongest to you. And then, or do 9 strongest with an but then put one of the strongest on the EP with some 3 ands or whatever. But I just think that honestly, I feel like that the model, like that's what Carcass did the last 2 times. They put out an album. The next year they put out an EP of leftovers from that session. And then the next time they did it in the reverse order where they put out an EP and then the next year they put out an album. And so I'm just like, yeah, everybody do that. Carcass know how to do it. Listen to them. Anyway.
We're all living in the modern world. And as such,
unfortunately,
it's a hard truth pill that we're all going to have to swallow. Our attention spans are fucked. They're not what they used to be. I can own up to that. I used to be able to sit down, on a bus journey and listen to a whole album. Now, I feel like, the likes of, TikTok have utterly, completely ruined my attention span. So I would be 100% down for bands doing shorter releases. Because, back in the day, Kiss albums aren't long,
Nope.
We've kind of come full circle, really.
I don't think my attention span has actually changed at all. Even when I was younger, I preferred albums that were around 40 minutes long, 45 minutes long. And I feel the same exact way. I don't, the only way that it's gotten different for me is that, a couple albums in recent memory have come out and have been barely over 30 minutes. And I just go, yes, it makes me so happy. So anyway, but are you done with that one with Def Leppard?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really anything to dissect. It's just Def Leppard doing a new modernized. Yeah, you got Hysteria, Adrenalize, Modernize. That could have been an album.
They should have.
It'd
be better than Diamond Star Halos. What a fucking awful title. Just like a lyric. Well, it's a lyric from a song they like.
Right.
Because it's from Bang a Gong, Get It On by T-Rex.
Of course it is. I do apologize.
Anyway, my number 5, I'm going to go through this quickly because we've talked about this band enough on this episode. My number 5 is Return to the Dream Canteen, or is it Return of the Dream Canteen? I wrote down Return to the Dream Canteen.
I have, bear with me. Return of the Dream Canteen.
Pull it up on the internets. Let's find out what the true title of that album is. Are you returning to it, Or is it
of
returning to you? Let's find out right here on Cranked and Ranked.
it is in fact Return of the Dream Canteen.
Oh, so I fucked up. I wanted it to be Return to the Dream Canteen. Anyway, okay. So that's my number 5.
Can I just say one thing about the album that I forgot to mention? I think it's the coolest album cover they've had in a long time.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, second album of the year, second one from the same session, produced by Rick Rubin. Mostly the same old shit, but I think this album starts off very strong. I like the first couple songs a lot, way more than I expected to. It does fall off after a few, and then it kind of goes into this same sort of like sleepwalking Red Hot Chili Peppers kind of sound, but it has more moments in it that I would go, oh, okay, that I'm into this. And then it'll be 2 or 3 songs where I'm not interested at all, followed by another one that's a little more interesting. It's just one of those things where I put it higher up just because it had more to offer me. And following their previous album of the same year, it was more entertaining overall. But I really do think that, yeah, once I was halfway through this album, I just, that's when I came to the realization. I just think that I think that they're making music for other people, and those people are the ones that discovered them through Californication and later.
Yeah.
And because that's all they've been doing. So I kind of feel for those fans that came in with Californication or with By the Way or some other album, and they probably have no problem with these albums. And these albums, that's probably why this album is on some people's end of the year list, because the older stuff is just weird stuff, and this stuff sounds like Red Hot Chili Peppers. So, but it's the complete opposite for me. So, yeah, has its moments. Overall, I probably won't go back to listen to it again. In fact, most of these albums, barring the top 2, I probably don't find myself wanting to go listen to again. So yeah, my number 5 was Return to the Dream Canteen from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Number 4.
Okay, so speaking of cutting albums down to a more digestible length. That sounded funny. We have Limp Bizkit with Still Sucks.
Okay.
So yeah, that
what am I hearing?
Oh, that's extremely heavy British rain.
Oh shit! It's loud enough to where I hear it in here. Anyway, all right, let's get into your number 4, Still Sucks by Limp Bizkit.
I tell you what, there's an episode of Tracklist Tournament where I've had the rain battering the house, and it creates a nice vibe. I'd kind of like gate my voice.
Speaking of that, I know I left a comment on your last video, but that video was so good. The Black Sabbath Part 3. For those of you who are listening or watching and you haven't gone yet, go to Eddie Sparxx' page and just watch the most recent video, because it is like, it's back to like, when I first started watching his stuff, like this is the kind of thing he was doing, but I feel like this is even funnier and more entertaining than in the past. It's just one of those things, because he's essentially talking about an era for the most part of a band that I'm not really that interested in, and he made it absolutely fun. And so,
boy, thank you.
So yeah, go watch that. That was a great video. Anyway, so I think that like that, I know it probably takes a long time to throw those together, but that shit's fun as hell.
Well, I've decided that, I used to move myself around the screen a lot. I've decided to ditch that in favor of more of a stripped back kind of editing thing. Like, I still got the green screen and it works.
No, it's great. It wasn't missing anything. So
yeah, nice. I was working too hard.
Limp Bizkit.
Limp Bizkit. Okay. Well, out of style. Holy fucking shit! That riff, dude. It almost feels like a dubstep drop on a guitar.
Yeah.
Like like all of those
That
Floyd Rose dives and shit.
the beginning of that song is just, it still gives me so much joy just because that kicks in and it sounds so good, and then you hear him
Yeah.
go DJ Lethal, and the scratch, I was just like, oh god, and then the scratching comes in, I'm just like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. So
I remember watching your video reaction to that, and even
yeah.
I made the same face that you made. I saw my reflection in the screen. Like I was like, whoa, they're back. But
Yeah.
Dirty Rotten Biscuit. Three
Yeah.
words to describe this song: get your groove on. The
Yeah.
biscuit's back, you know. Dad vibes. I love this.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
My girlfriend loves this song. It's so funny. But yeah, the Fred Durst dad vibe rebrand was genius. Absolute genius.
Yeah.
Hot dad running on around. It's just so fun, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great song. And essentially it's just a hip hop song. Like there's no
rap with the dad vibes now.
Yeah.
What about the bounce of the franchise?
Can't live with them. Can't live without
Can't
them.
live without
New
'em.
kid back on the block with the rip. Yeah, got the sag in the back with the drip. Come and get a sip. La-di-da.
La-di-da. Oh, man. Turn it up, bitch. I mean, that bass line reminds me of the day the fellas took over from the Chronic. It's got that kind of just for any listeners who don't recognize that song title, in order to circumvent any racial stuff, we replaced the N-word with fellas on this show. It's off a gangster rap album.
I was like, yeah, that song. I was like, how can you how can you put together a song that's so banging and then I can't rap it? I feel bad if I rap it.
Oh man.
But I want to because it's so good. Anyway.
I tell you what, speaking of stuff that you want to sing, is just everybody needs some hardcore fucked up bang your head shit, so turn it up, bitch. Like I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't Change, acoustic ballad, you know.
Well, I mean, that's a cover. I mean, you knew that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Which is a really good In Excess song. Kind of unnecessary on this album, in my opinion, but you know, is what it is.
Well, part of me wonders if they heard that, you know, track 4 or 5 is where you got to put a ballad, so they stuck it there.
And they're like, we had a hit with a cover song before that was acoustic because they did Behind Blue Eyes. That was, I think, that was popular for them. So yeah, whatever.
Be the sad man. It's just so funny. It's so funny to go from introducing chocolate starfish to nobody knows what it's like to be hated. It's like, come on, Fred, don't get sad.
Yeah.
You're the redneck
that was
Jacksonville.
that was on that album that didn't have Wes Borland on it, so maybe he was just sad overall. I don't know.
Yeah, he's going through a breakup. You bring out the worst in me. If Bipolar had a soundtrack, love the hate. Go ahead and hate them. They're a success, and you ain't.
Yeah.
Barnacle, punky track. Empty Hole, acoustic track. Pill Popper. Some of Wes Borland's riffs are just mad underrated.
Yeah,
you know?
Agreed.
Snacky Poo, full blown hip hop song with a skit at the end.
Yeah.
And Goodbye is like a pop song kind of closer, and it's one of the most weird, surreal 35 minutes I've ever experienced, and every time I listen to it, I have fun.
Same here.
But as much as I enjoyed it, I found it to be quite front loaded, and many songs in the second half don't even reach the 2-minute mark. I think there's 3 in a row that are sub 2 minutes. And you know, it keeps a flow going, but you know, its highs are high, but I feel like some of the ideas could have benefited from a little bit more development.
Yeah.
That being said, it fits the bill with the less than 35 minutes long thing that I've been pushing for this entire episode.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's an ideal length for something like this.
Yeah.
Um, like I say, I'd rather have an EP I want to play twice than an album that feels like a commitment, you know?
100%
So,
agree.
hell yeah. So yeah,
So,
that's my number 4.
okay, my number 4, you already talked about it, Def Leppard, Diamond Star Halos.
Okay.
Their 12th album. I really liked their last one, which was just called Def Leppard. I thought that sounded like modern Def Leppard, and with a throwback sort of, little sprinkled in kind of thing, and it was a lot of fun. This one to me is a complete opposite, where the songs to me aren't very good on this. I lost interest immediately because the singles that they were releasing, I wasn't interested in them at all. I would hear them and go, God, these are not really that good. And yeah, so yeah, the self-titled album was in 2015, so it's been a little while, but for the most part, my problem is a lot of these songs, not only are they weak, but a lot of them sound very little like Def Leppard to me. It could just be any band.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
just
that's
like
something that,
generic old guy rock tunes. And these are old guys. I understand that. But a lot of these songs, they also are kind of annoying because several of them start off very promising and then just lose steam really quickly. So you think you're going to
yeah.
get a good time, and then it just kind of doesn't go anywhere. Once again, I really do think that the Chili Peppers, this album, it's music for older people that don't really listen to that much music anymore, and you have those conversations with them where they go, I didn't even know this band had a new album. And, it's
Yeah.
like you get those kind of people, and there's nothing wrong with that,
They're
but
still together, are they? That
yeah,
I get that a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so or they're people that listen to things like Def Leppard, and they have like 5 or 6 bands they listen to, and that's it, and they just think all modern music is awful. It's all music is crap these days. It's all hippity hoppity all over the place. So this album is for those people, and it's
Yeah.
unnecessarily long, but I liked things about it, but overall I'm like, yeah, it's not anything I want to go back and listen to, but it has its moments, and I like Def Leppard, and I'm glad they're still kicking it. I just think that this album is not for me, and it doesn't have
Yeah.
the
Kick.
song. Yeah,
Yeah.
the songs aren't strong enough, and overall, it just wasn't very exciting. So, my number 4, Def Leppard, Diamond Star, Halos, bringing us in to the top 3 of these albums. That what we were going to call this. Oh, the one thing that we talked about calling this episode was old friends, new stuff,
Yeah.
or
I like that.
or post rank albums. I don't know what they
Or
for those of you who are
post
joining us late.
post. Yeah. Yeah. Like post episode releases or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Something
yeah,
along those
if
lines.
anyone's like, why didn't you include these albums? Well, because they're probably from bands that we haven't talked about yet. The whole point of this
Yeah.
episode is these are bands we've already ranked. I don't know
Yeah.
why I don't know why I feel the need to like say that again. Anyway, on to our top 3.
Cool. So my number 3 is Ugly Kid Joe, Red Wings of Destiny.
Okay.
Cool. I completely understand your criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are legitimate. This is nowhere near the level of excitement I get from their 90s output or their even their most recent. I mean, I'd say I'd probably enjoyed it roundaboutly the same as I have the last few, the last couple. That
Okay.
those being Uglier
Uglier
Than
than
They
they
Used
used to
to
be.
and Stairway to Hell. Um,
Yeah.
I think for me, it, I feel like this album has its own personality in their discography, in a sense that it almost it almost feels like a bit of a tribute album to, you know, their influences, maybe, as opposed to them doing Ugly Kid Joe. You know, hence
Yeah.
such a heavy AC/DC like sound to a lot of the bigger rocking songs on here. But with that, I'll just jump in. That Ain't Living sounds a lot like AC/DC, but it comes off as like a love letter on this song.
Yeah.
They just this comes off as, we really like the sound of this. We want to try to do it, and
But I think it would make more sense if AC/DC wasn't also a band that is also still doing AC/DC.
Yeah.
I mean, did you hear that last AC/DC album? It was actually pretty good. They're still doing it. So, we don't need other bands to do it.
Yeah, I feel like it does set up a bit of a tone on this album, though. It kind of sets up we did a comeback EP. We put out a modern take on Ugly Kid Joe with Uglier Than They Used to Be. This one feels like they're really leaning into the classic rock vibe on this album.
Yeah.
So you get Not Like the Other. I'm not the biggest fan of this song. It's not my favorite on the album by any stretch. It does knock the pacing a little bit. I don't hate it, but I'm with you on the lack of enthusiasm. Yeah. No, I'm in agreement. Yeah. However, I love Everything's Changing. I love this song. It sits somewhere between Busy Bee and Cloudy Skies. It's this like nice, chill,
which would be cool if it had followed up two really exciting, fun songs, and then you get a little bit of a mellow side. I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a nice, chill, melancholy, acoustic-driven rock ballad. I love the chimey guitars in the chorus. That's really cool. Kill the Pain. Winfield Crane still has a cool fucking voice, dude. Like, this song reminds me of No One Survives from Stairway, with its kind of like dark modern rock feel. The guitar solo is also pretty cool. Then you get the cover of Lola, and
which I love that song, but an unnecessary cover.
For me, this song has always been. I don't want to say tarnished or tainted, but it kind of spoilt for me, because there's a scene in Futurama where the really cocky space captain Zap Brannigan gets up and tries to seduce Leela, the Cyclops lady. You seen Futurama?
No, I mean I know it. I've never really watched it.
There's a scene where he gets up and he does a really shit version of Lola, but he changes it to Leela, and everybody like runs for the escape pods because it's that bad. But
plus I feel like that there are certain songs that need to be sung in exactly the way that they were sung when they were made. So that song is so great, and I think it's a pretty perfect song, but it has to be I met her in the club. It has to be sung like that because that sounds perfect. The way that he does it, Mr. Kink, whatever his fucking name is, the guy from the Kinks.
Ray Davies.
Ray Davies, yeah.
Anyway, but where I was going with that is, it's a fun song, but I can never hear Lola without thinking of Zap Brannigan from Futurama.
Got it. Okay.
L-E-E-L-A, Leela.
I wonder how many people over the years have done karaoke to that song, never actually knowing the lyrics and realizing that in the last third of the song, it's revealed that it's about a man that's dressed like a woman. Because he doesn't technically say anything about it being a man dressed like a woman. Yeah. And even when he says it in the song, it's phrased in a way where if you don't really hear it unless you're looking at the lyrics. Because he says, I know what I am and I'm glad I'm a man, and so is Lola. But the way he says so is Lola, it's like you don't quite catch it. So I just imagine all of these like classic rock dudes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do this for my girl Lola, and then they get up there with the lyrics, and they're all like, "Wait, this is about a dude." I'm like, yeah, that's what makes it a fucking great song. And and once you know that and go back to listen to some of the lyrics, you're all like, "Oh, she walk like a woman but talk like a man." Oh, I love it. It's such a great song, but Ugly Kid Joe didn't need to do it.
It's like when people use Every Breath You Take as their fucking wedding song. And it's like, dude, it's about a stalker. Stop. Yeah.
Or they turn it into a hip hop song and change all the lyrics so it's fucking awful. Puff Daddy. Jesus Christ.
Reminisce sometime.
I think that I remember, like, so I had to have been, not maybe 19, 20 years old when that song came out, the I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy and whatever, the tribute to Notorious B.I.G. But
Yes.
the first time I heard it, I remember like verbally yelling at the TV, like, who the fuck let them do this shit? Because like I'm not a huge fan of that particular song. I like The Police. That song's good. It's just not, I think they have way better songs. But just the uninspired choice of changing the lyrics to every single day, every time I pray. I'm like, oh my fucking God. If like that's when the artist is also the producer, because any other producer would have been like, you sure? I mean, this is kind of a cheese ball. But you know what? I guess who was right in the end? He had a fucking multi-million selling hit, and I am doing this podcast with you. I apologize, Puff Daddy. Or P. Diddy or Diddy or Piddly Dong Ding, whatever you're calling yourself this week. But
Piddly Dong Ding.
Whatever. Anyway.
Oh man. How's it going? Ring ding dong. Ring a ding 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 dong.
Anyway. All right. So we were on Lola by
Cool.
The Kinks, Ugly Kid Joe.
Yeah. Okay, let's move it over to Dead Friends Play, which is another AC/DC worship song. Up in the City is a mellow, slinky rocker. Now, here's the exact moment in the album where you verbally let out a fuck off with Drinking and Driving, which is Country Time, which I've written down in my notes. This is your fuck this moment.
There's a few of those on the album, but yeah.
I'm thinking it was the definitive one, though. I feel like the moment a banjo shows up, you like start melting like fucking Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
That being said, you get Failure, chorus affected distortion, me likey. And Long Road is a nice chill song to close out on. Can't go wrong with that. Worked on America's Least Wanted. All in all, is it on the level of America's Least Wanted? Absolutely not.
No.
But it does have its own personality in their discography. But the big thing for me on this album is that the mellower cuts stand out to me the most. Everything's changing. In particular, I just really, really like that song.
Yeah, a few of the songs to me are not bad. They're just not good enough.
It wouldn't. Let's say it's in a. I have two leagues for Ugly Kid Joe. There's good Ugly Kid Joe, and then there's really, really, really fucking good Ugly Kid Joe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 3.
Okay.
Over to you.
My number 3, the last of the albums that I'm not interested in really ever listening to again for the most part. My number 3 is Megadeth, The Sick, The Dying, and The Dead. There's an exclamation point at the end. This is really, for the most part, I would say 75% same old from Megadeth. Once again, like I say, with a lot of their more modern albums, the performances are great. All very talented musicians. There's some cool riffs on there. Overall, it's just not very exciting. Some songs are downright awful, and all of the lyrics are awful. Every single one of them is awful.
I want to
And
be an astronaut.
I mean, that's one of the, I would put that as better, but it's like, but
I actually
I
really
just,
like that song.
I, he's just gotten to the point now where all of his lyrics are just like reading from an instruction manual for some military thing where it's all like thrusters going, all systems go, over, confirming. So it's all just like, it's all so
Victor Bravo Charlie.
Yeah, it's
snipers in the trees.
It's awful. And this album annoyed me even more because unfortunately, and I said this before, and somebody I think got really bent out of shape and left me a mean comment, but my experience with Megadeth fans is that most of them are very immature. And just recently, like there's a guy I had to block from my channel because every time I would do anything about Metallica, he would respond and tell me that Megadeth is better and I'm an asshole. Even though I said nothing about Megadeth anywhere in the video. But once again, that is your Megadeth fan, ladies and gentlemen.
It screams victim complex.
Yes. And but on top of that, the first song that came out of this off of this album, the We'll Be Back, I liked it. I liked things about it. I thought it was cool. And then the second one came out. I don't remember what that one was, but that's the one that has Ice-T on it. I liked things about that. In Night Stalkers. I liked things about that one too. But they did this thing. I say they. Dave Mustaine did this thing that was very strategically and well done, where the first two songs that were released were both thrash metal songs. There's really only, I think, one other thrash metal song on the album. But because of that, all of these people that just want this to be a great album, they're like, it's a return to form. It's finally Dave's doing all thrash metal. And I'm like, oh, so you listened to like 2 songs and made your mind up about an entire fucking album of music. And even then, they don't care that there's so many just recycled riffs. Now, here's the thing. I understand that after you've been doing music for a very long time, especially when you're dealing with metal and thrash metal and things like that, there are things that are going to eventually just get recycled because it just doesn't make the connection in your head, or this is appropriate for that particular part of a song or whatever. That's not the problem. The problem is what you do with that recycled thing. Because everyone, immediately comes out and says, that new Metallica song sounds recycled, the riffs on it and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but they made a great song with it. Like, yeah, the riff doesn't sound like anything new. It sounds like a throwback song, but overall, it's a song that I listen to and I go, that's a fucking good song. And the opposite side, it's not just Megadeth, it's a lot of older metal bands. Fuck it, a lot of metal bands in general, even younger, are taking things that have already been done hundreds of times and just doing them the same. And with Megadeth, there's so much of this sort of middle of the road Megadeth on this. And a few of the songs sound like that if they could have come straight from Super Collider, an album that everybody apparently hated. But it doesn't matter because everyone has already made up their minds that they need to be all on board with the Megadeth camp and say that this is a fucking great album. And so I'm like, I'm not saying that you're wrong if you like this album, because if you're a huge Megadeth fan, this ticks a whole lot of boxes. So it's fuck it, whatever. But I feel like there's a whole lot of lip service. Is that what I'm the correct term? Where I think a lot of people are saying the things that they want to be true about this album, even though they're not true about this album. And really, at the end of the day, it's just a middle of the road Megadeth album for what they've been doing recently. That's well performed, has some cool riffs, has some cool parts, but overall, it's kind of and that's it. It's not awful. It's just it's nothing that's making me excited. And this is another thing that's really upsetting to me, because if you talk about Megadeth up until the end of the 90s, I'm including Risk in this. I would say that I'm a huge Megadeth fan. Huge.
Agreed.
Love them. I love even Risk, all those albums, everything leading up to Risk. Risk is also great. I love them. If they had continued, either if they had stopped there or continued to make music that I feel is equally as good as all of that stuff from back in the day, they would be one of my favorite bands ever. But they're not, because they fell off in a big way and started making music that even me as a fan, I felt like I was having to make excuses for it. And if you have to make excuses for it, then it's just not as good. They have their moments. I really like United Abominations. Most of that album is really good. Most of Endgame is really good. There's tracks off of every album that I go, that's fucking cool. But overall, they've taken this huge step down. And now they've put out this album that really depresses me, because it's made me have to like turn in my Megadeth card and just say, look, I'm just not into this anymore. I'm not, and I don't think it's going to change. I think even if Megadeth continues to put out albums for, 2, 3, 4 more albums, however long he decides to keep it going, I really don't think it's ever going to get any better. And so I just have to resign myself to that fact. So it's a weird combination of feelings, because I'm annoyed by the quote unquote Megadeth fan, but at the same time, I used to be one of them, and I want to still be one of them. And so I don't know. I put this at number 3 because out of all of these, it had the most parts that I thought were cool and very well done. But overall, like, I can't see myself going and just putting this album on again. If the name Megadeth goes to my head, it's going to be something from the 80s or the 90s that I'm going to be playing. And so, just disappointing. And I know they're one of your favorite bands, so I'm interested to hear your take on it. So I'll leave it there with my number 3, which is Sick, Dying, and the Dead from Megadeth.
Sick, Dying, and Dead.
Sick, Dying, Dead.
Cool. So my number 2 is Primus with Conspiranoid.
Noise. Now, the only EP really on our list, or technically an EP. I mean, the It Still Sucks is a pretty short album, but yeah, this is actually an EP.
Yeah, and it's got 3 tracks, one of which is a 12-minute prog rock meditation on the absolute insanity of the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But I might as well jump right in. Conspiranoia is this sprawling, funky, constantly changing while retaining a theme and motifs. It's just really fucking cool to hear that, I mean, what is it? On the Desaturating 7, it became very clear that Primus had entered their, we are going in a prog direction,
Yeah.
You could say that about their entire discography, but they did it in a very uniquely Primus way.
Yeah.
Whereas like the last couple records have been a definitive, we're going for a theme here, and our influences are quite clear, but we're still Primus.
Yeah. It probably didn't hurt that they were touring where they were covering an entire Rush album on their tour.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that definitely had something to do with it. But yeah, Conspiranoia is an amazing song.
There's that's one that they could have just literally made that into like a 30-minute song, because just the way that the parts go, but every single time every time that's about to start and the bass goes, every time it starts that again, I'm all like, oh yeah. So I just feel like, just put out like an extended dance mix of the song where it's like, it's just play, you just like connect it together and do some remixing and make it an even longer version. Cause I would just eat that up. It's so good.
Yeah, it's incredible. Um, I'm gonna say though, "Follow the Fool" is my favorite song on it
Yeah.
because holy shit, I love the hook in this song. Is it the fool? Is it the fool who follows the fool?
Yeah.
Is it the fool who follows the fool who follows the fool? Or is it the fool who follows the fool who follows the fool?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's oh man. When I first heard that song, I was on my way to work in my car, and my mood immediately shifted. I mean, I'd already heard Conspiranoia that I thought, oh yeah, this is
Yeah.
cool. And then Follow the Fool comes on, and I'm thinking, damn boy,
Yeah.
damn boy, you know. But yeah, and then you get Aaron on the Side of Caution as you know. I love the drum sound on this. The riff writing on this is genius and like
Yeah.
strangely heavy. But there's a really good sonic space, you know, with this release. It's just
Yeah.
they know the right amount of, you know, reverb to have on everything. They know the right amount of, you know, it's not dated, it's not overbearing, it's not anything
No.
wrong with it. It just sounds
It's
good.
100% pure class from
Yeah,
Primus.
100%. And, you know, it's an EP, and it got the number 2 spot on a list of 7 albums.
Yeah.
You know, there is nothing wrong with that. If there became a law, yes, like today, right? No more LPs, got to be EPs. I don't think I'd be upset, because I feel like bands would be forced to trim fat that, you know, otherwise wouldn't be enjoyable anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree.
yeah, and I recently, what is it? Let's have a quick look. This is just in reference to something. Okay, that's going to be harder to find than I thought. A watcher recently commented, you know, a list of albums that were in the 40 minutes to an hour zone on a comment I left on, I think, one of your videos that
Yeah.
said, you know, I'd quite like shorter releases. And it's like, dude, appreciate the input. That was a list of about 20 to 30 albums that I simply do not have time for in my schedule. You know?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, but thank you for, you know, the recommendations, and I may well get around to it. You know, I want to be surprised. I want, you know, I want bands to, you know, I want something to show up on the level of Dirt or Angel Dust that are long albums that keep me fully invested from start to finish.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, that's a very hard task to accomplish in this era.
Yeah.
So with that, you know, Primus, Conspiranoid, kind of in and out, but it's not a big release. So
Yeah.
over to you for number 2.
Cool. My number 2 was in my top 10 of the year for 2021, and that is Limp Bizkit Still Sucks.
Oh,
And it's 12 songs, 32 minutes, in and out. It's a lot of fun. I have to agree with you that it is front loaded, and because of, like, my only real gripe about it is because it's only 32 minutes of material. The fact that there are two tracks that are acoustic and not really necessarily very strong, and one of them's a cover. I almost, because I heard that when they recorded stuff, they had more songs than this. And I'm like, oh man, it would have been great if they could have just kept this momentum going to where they made like the Limp Bizkit version of Rain and Blood, where it's literally just 30 minutes of like, it doesn't let up.
It's a like,
yeah. And so I was kind of disappointed with that, because the first, especially like 3 to 4 tracks, it really gives you the idea of like, oh my God, this is going to be fucking nuts for 30 minutes. And it falls off, and it has a great energy all the way through. And the thing that I kind of thought was interesting is that as you get further on into the album, there are songs that almost sound like, it's like what I feel like Ugly Kid Joe maybe wanted to do, but it's weird me saying this out loud. Limp Bizkit did it better, where they are paying homage to the past. Because there's a song that sounds very much like a grungy 90s alternative song. There's the last song on the album sounds like something that had been from a boy band back in the 90s. There's one that's a little more, almost like punky, I guess, in a way. And I feel like it's just them sort of like celebrating like the decade that spawned them, while also still throwing in some kick-ass Limp Bizkit songs. If Ugly Kid Joe had managed that, then I would have enjoyed that album a lot more. But honestly, going back to this album now that I know what it is and I'm expecting the parts that maybe aren't as strong to me, I actually enjoy this album even more with more listens, because the songs that I love still hit really hard for me. And then the other ones, I've gotten to know them more, and I go, okay, the things that I like about them have come out. And so I just think it's a really strong, fun album, and I don't know why things went quiet. It's so weird. This is the weirdest album release ever, because there was no build up to it. There was literally, I think there was either a tweet or a post or some sort of story where Fred Durst said, thinking of dropping the album on Halloween night. What do you think? And that was all anybody heard. And then on Halloween night, the album was released. They've been playing shows, but no physical release. They did a music video, a Dad Vibes music video, but for the most part, it seems like they sort of just let this album out, and then that was it. And I'm like, well, I wonder what that means. Here's what I would like. Now we're 2023. There's been a year in between. They'll drop a second album of this length, 32 minutes of more songs, and then maybe have a physical release, which is a double album of both of these things. I would like that. Anyway, it's a fun album if you like Limp Bizkit. If you don't, you're not going to like this, which is why the album title is appropriate. They still suck. If you thought they sucked before, this is not going to change your mind. So anyway, really fun album. My number 2, Limp Bizkit, still sucks, which leads us to your number 1, which I figured it out, is Megadeth. So I'm interested to hear your take on this album. Let's do it.
Cool. So Megadeth, the sick, the dying, and the dead. Obviously a little callback to So Far, So Good, So What, with how it's laid out on the front cover there.
And the album cover is just as bad.
Yes, it's
It's a really bad album cover. It's like I prefer So Far So Good So What. It's not one of my favorites of their album covers, but I like it. But this one is like, it's like somebody put a whole lot of effort into doing a really not very good album cover. It's just like, it's just really, it looks lame.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. It looks like the box art for a PS3 game released in 2006.
Yeah, or some straight to video action movie or something.
I will say, let me just check out. Hang on. So Far, So Good, So What? I just want to make sure.
It's the one that's
I just want to make sure that my point still stands from long ago. People always shit on this album cover, dude. Yeah. I think it's one of the cooler ones. If anything, my 3 favorite album covers of Megadeth, with this one possibly first, is So Far So Good So What, Rust in Peace, and Peace Sells. And my reasoning for that is because it looks like something you'd see on some sort of apocalyptic news broadcast in the 80s as World War III begins.
Giving it that sort of description, I do like it. It's not bad, but I've always looked at it and gone, that's all they had. Like, they literally just had a what do you call it? What's the guy's name? Vic. They had like a Vic, and they just took some pictures of him and then put some overlays on it or whatever, and then that's the album cover. And I'm just like, it's kind of lazy, but it's fine.
Yeah, So
Anyway, anyway,
let's talk about the music.
the new album. We're in the now. Live in the
Yes.
now.
Stop torturing yourself, man. You'll never afford it. So yeah, Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. Title track, strong opener, has a classic Megadeth feel, reminiscent of some of their 90s era at points. Life in Hell. One thing I am going to say I love about this lineup is Dirk Verburen. Fucking badass drummer. Like,
Yeah,
there's
agreed.
a lot of, like, his fills and stuff. Nothing impresses me more than a drummer that can do fast, subtle stuff. I don't care how loud and fast you can go. You know, we've all heard someone go, oh, fuck, I heard that. But, like, if you can do, like, a, like, sort of thing, like, hitting the snare quietly is one of the harder things to do as a drummer.
Yeah.
Whenever someone can do that well and fluid and sound like a fucking octopus, chef's kiss. Night Stalkers, I'm not gonna lie, absolutely love this song, even if Ice-T is there for like no reason.
That doesn't matter. I mean, that's a bonus for me. You put Ice-T in something.
Yeah. Black Hawk Helicopters in the dead of night. Yeah. Dogs of Chernobyl, track 4, slow song, tried and true method. Sacrifice. I love the Eastern feel to this track. Adore that kind of pre-chorus kind of thing with the chug 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 tom fills, especially that dum 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 like that right there is classic Megadeth, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it is my number one is because, yeah, a lot of it is the same Megadeth we've had for the last 20 years. Literally, I'm about to go back on myself for what I said about Red Hot Chili Peppers. But but
there's a difference though, because Megadeth is one of your favorite bands, and when one of your favorite bands does middle of the road versions of their stuff, you're more forgiving for it, and you appreciate things that probably others wouldn't.
I think overall as well, I do think Megadeth have a more interesting sound than, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers post 99.
Yeah.
So
definitely more distortion.
yeah. I mean, you know, obviously it's going to appeal to me. I'm a metalhead, but like there are things I can pick up from certain albums where there's like, I'll be honest, 2001 onward, there's like 2 to 3 bangers per Megadeth album. And I've kind of just, you know, I kind of grew up in the era where modern Megadeth was always a thing alongside old Megadeth. So I guess that like cut off in evolution in the early 2000s was, it never really bothered me that much.
Yeah.
That being said, I do understand that, you know, the first couple decades are a lot more interesting than the last couple decades, you know?
Yeah.
Junkie, pretty standard modern Megadeth track. Psychopathy is a short little track where Dave reads from a dictionary as the band plays behind him. Killing Time. I do love a melodic Megadeth riff. Soldier On, a blast beat in a Megadeth song. Go off, Dirk. I also like the breakdown section in the solo in this one.
It has like one of the most awful choruses though, but yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
pretty bad. That was the moment, because I had pre-ordered this album.
That was your fuck off moment.
And it was, and I had heard We'll Be Back, and then I heard Night Stalkers, and those were both songs that the more I listened to them, the more I went, these aren't amazing songs. And then like the third single we're releasing before the album comes out is this one. What was the title again?
Soldier On.
Soldier On. And halfway through the song, I went, canceling that pre-order.
Oh man, brutal.
Because it's so bad. It's so bad that I'm just like, no. If this is any indication of what this album is going to be, I'll just pick up vinyl later if I'm wrong. and I wasn't wrong. So there you go.
Okay, go off, King. Uh, but yeah, Celebutante, or Celebutant. I've forgotten how to say that. I am 100% down for an 80s high-pitched speed metal riff revival, especially on the tail of Metallica's Lux Eterna.
Mm.
I think we've reached a point where we've kind of come full circle. Gent has done all it could do. Yeah. Mission to Mars. I want to be an astronaut. Indeed. I can't lie. It's a fun track. I love when bands do kind of silly, fun songs.
Sure.
We'll Be Back. That ending breakdown is nasty.
Yeah.
You know, that like that. More of that, Dave. Police Truck, Dead Kennedy's cover, and This Planet's on Fire, featuring Sammy Hagar, is a fun song. These last two tracks feel like well, they're technically bonus tracks, but This Planet's on Fire feels like an end credits song, and I always love when an end credits song ends an album. So I'm including these last two songs. You know, I gotta be honest, dude. I know exactly what you mean with modern Megadeth, but I just fucking love what Dave brings to the table. He always brings with him cool parts, good shredding, and another few years of Megadeth memes.
But but I mean, and it's true. But like, I'm also not. That's why, like, I understand from the standpoint of me as a Metallica fan, because somebody could listen to Hardwired to Self-Destruct, or even like the new with Lux Eterna, and just say like, it's just not very good. It's not, it's not as exciting as their old stuff, and that's what I want. And I would never tell those people that they're wrong. The difference is, I don't immediately jump on everybody. It's like, if you don't like Metallica and you have a valid reason for not, if you just don't like it, that's absolutely fine. But I feel like in the Megadeth camp, there's such venom from those fans that I'm just like, look, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong for liking this Megadeth album. And
I'm gonna chime in here with a little anecdote.
Yeah.
Megadeth is my girlfriend's favorite band. That's right. I won, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, she actually left Megadeth fan groups on social media because everyone is such a fucking incel. Like, those were her words. And I was like, you know what? There's a lot of victim complex shit going on. It's like, dudes, you can like both bands. Shut the fuck up.
Or just don't. Like, it's the thing. Like, if I see a review of Metallica and they go, I think this is awful, I don't like it, I'm not going to feel inclined to comment and say, just because you don't know fucking anything about music, because I'm not a jerk off. And so it's just, it's me being old head, the YouTuber, because I have a feeling that if I wasn't doing this, I would be in contact with less of that. And so it wouldn't bother me. I'd just be like, fuck these people,
I think the only thing that I've seen, the rain's back.
Dang.
Jesus Christ.
It's like a Dirk Van Buren drum solo.
Yeah, I think it might be hail.
Hell no.
Oh, hell no. But yeah, that being said, I have seen one thing kind of roasting Lux Eterna that I did think was legitimately funny, because it came from an original place. someone said something along the lines of Sonic the Hedgehog ass sounding riff, and I was like, you know what, that is kind of funny. Yeah,
You just recreate it with some sort of 8-bit sounding music.
Yeah.
Anyway,
see, that sort of stuff is funny, you know.
Yeah, it's few and far between.
The original.
It's few and far between where it's actually funny. Most of the time, it's the same jokes over and over again, and that weren't funny. Anyway,
remember Saint Anger? Remember, boom, boom. Yes, we know. It's been 20 years.
That's true. It has been 20 years this year.
Nuts.
Anyway, we're about to break the 2-hour mark, and so I'm gonna quickly get my number one out of the way. My number one is Conspiranoid by Primus.
Hey.
An EP ends up at number one, but it's just because it's absolutely I literally don't have any gripes about this aside from I can't wait for them to put something else out because this is not enough. I want more.
Leave me wanting more.
It was, I did my top 10 of 2022 and I only included albums. So I even did a little section where I talked about this EP because it was my favorite EP of the year. I just love how I can get lost in the vibe of Conspiranoia. And I really think this is like my favorite Primus in years. And I just love that you get this sort of proggy, sort of vibed out version of them, followed by funky, odd kind of Primus that you love. It's just like all the things that I want from Primus are all just represented here with some things that like I wasn't expecting. And the OG lineup is in full effect, and I'm looking forward to them doing more stuff. I don't really have a lot to add from what you said about it. It's just a really strong EP from a band that clearly has a lot more fuel in the tank, and I'm ready for more. So my number one, Primus, Conspiranoid. It's fucking great. And that's the weird ranking of all the albums from other bands that we didn't rank in the rankings that we did.
Yes. Very, very nice.
I don't even know if that deserves a we did it because it's not a band discography, but either way,
we somewhat accomplished something.
It's good. I did it like Ugly Kid Joe did their Haze. I'm like, we did it. Anyway, so thank you very much for joining us for our first episode of 2023. We have a lot in store for this year. We have a long list of groups, and we've started scheduling out what we're going to be doing. We're going to keep this year interesting with a lot of all the different flavors of Cranked and Ranked are going to be represented. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And I don't know what else to add. It's a new year. Go ahead.
To those, I was just going to say, to those out there who are worried we're ever going to run out of bands, that's never going to happen, because even if we do, we can do a slashed and mashed, a grooved and removed, wanked and spanked, whatever the fuck. We have such a long list that's going to take us forever to get to the list that's already there. And at the bottom of the list that we have, I already have like 10 other bands that I've added that I haven't even told you about. So it's like, so there's a lot. Sweet. There's a lot to get through. Because as you've seen, we don't just stick to one kind of it's not just metal. And we're not going to ever go into country, I don't think. I wouldn't want to do that. And we could do like an April Fool's version where we do the Desert Rose Band.
But you like them, so it's,
I they were just the first one I thought of.
maybe we'll get there. That'll be a very weird.
All 100 something Willie Nelson albums.
Holy shit! No. I have to draw the line somewhere, and it's right there. Anyway, all right. That's it for this episode of Cranked and Ranked. Thanks for joining us. We're back next week with another band discography, and it'll be a fun one, and not one that I think people will be expecting. So it'll be fun. Some people will absolutely hate it. Other people will be surprised and enjoy it. Everyone else will just go, eh.
It's Come to think of it, it's a flavor. It's a genre. We're gonna call them flavors here on out because I like what you said.
Oh,
All flavors of
welcome to
Cranked and
Flavor
Ranked.
Country, ladies and
But
gentlemen.
Guy Fieri is gonna take you to Flavor Town. But yeah, it's another genre we have yet to cover. So
Yeah. Well, we
yeah,
kind of did that a little bit with a band, but I'm not going to say.
I'm just gonna say it's a genre I've come round to because I used to not like it, and
Yeah.
now I'm partial to it
It's
somewhat from time to time.
before we finish this episode, I have to confirm something with you because you said Flavortown, and I saw very recently somebody did a post where they were talking about how in England the equivalent of what we have over here, which is like the dollar store or Dollar Tree, over there is called Pound Town. Is that true?
We have Pound Land.
That sounds good too, but there are actual pictures of places called Pound Town in England.
Pound Town meme. Oh man, that's fucking funny. Pound Town, UK.
I mean, yeah.
yeah. It's like a knockoff version of Poundland, but it is confirmed to exist.
Pound
That's
Town.
I fucking love that. That's
How
great.
many? Yeah, how many? If you had one near you, how many times would you tell your girlfriend, "Hey, you want me to take you to Pound Town today?"
Taking a pound.
Anyway,
Oh wow.
okay. On that note, we're gonna.
I
What?
was just gonna say
Oh,
it gives me a legit I don't know. Yeah. I'm gonna use that. I'm just gonna
do
say
it. Yeah,
that.
and everybody else,
I'll report
everybody
back
else.
with my findings.
Yeah, say that too. Everyone out there, say that to your significant other, and then let them know that there actually is a store called that in the UK. Anyway, all right, that's it for this episode of Cranked and Ranked. I said it right that time. I was a little worried. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, as usual, I'm going to throw it over to Mr. Eddie Sparxx to take us out.
Later, dude.
DJ Lethal. All right, bye everyone.
Later, dude.